Hello again. Hello, hello, hello. Internet connection decided to crap its pants just about that point. Sorry about that. Uh, all right. Uh, Doggone connection crapping out. Get a little, just I'd love to know what causes this. I'd rather, and their solution is shut everything down, turn off the unplug it for 10 seconds, then replug it in, and then plug in, turn it on back to the computer and your router and wiggly waggly wickety whack, and the next thing you know, you're back, and or and now they know that this happens. They know that this happens. So my big question is, they know that this happens, and they obviously know how to fix, that shutting it down and turning it back on fixes it somehow. Why haven't they automated the process? Why haven't they, put just one big button that will shut everything down and boot everything back up, and do all that crap all in one go? Seriously, well, why don't they? Think about it. It would be a fairly straightforward process, I would think, to automate it. automate the whole reboot. Rumpus. Look, I've seen keyboards out there that are designed to uh, go straight to Wikipedia with a single push of a button. So yeah, I think they could automate. I think they could automate this much. You know, considering it's a little more essential to the functioning of the computer. They automated the shutdown procedure. They can do that. They can do this. They've got these. They can set up a system that will automatically make uh, uh, your cable modem and everything just go and reset. Okay. Don't even know if anybody's watching, but if you're there, and Google keeps dropping me. Look at this. Keep getting a 504 error when I try to refresh this page. Google's a piece of crap. Up until a few days ago, it worked just dang fine. Now it's just crapping itself. Can't find its nuts with its bull map. Find its, never mind. I can't get to my live dashboard. Can't get to my control panel. I don't know if there's anything going out or not. Have no idea. In which case I apologize to all y'all because I have no idea. I have no idea what's wrong. I am currently live streaming and YouTube is screwing me over. I wonder if I got blacklisted. There's a server error. It won't work. It's what happens when you have feminists doing, nobody but feminists for your company. Male feminists couldn't find their nuts with both hands on a map, and a female feminist wouldn't know where to look in the first place. Yes, I said nuts. Cope. Yeah, I'm going to get all sorts of screaming fits from all sorts of people. Hear these recordings, hear me using such profane language. I apologize again. I apologize. I'm just going to have to keep apologizing until it sticks. That's all I can do. Come on, computer. Here we go. Live stream. Live dashboard. Frame frequency is needs 4 seconds or less. Now, I love that picture. That's a fan picture of Sweetie Belle all grown up singing, and yeah, it's a beautiful picture. You see, that's what fans do. They everybody looks down on fanboys, but every now and then you'll get one come across one that does something extraordinarily beautiful with something so simple. Then you get across some of the others and go, wait a minute, is that Applejack and Rarity together? And what are they? Ah! Oh my. I'm about tuckered out. I'm hungry. I am so tempted to order a pizza, but right now, literally every dime I'm going to, literally every dime I have, every dime I'm going to make this month is already accounted for, and every bit of it's going to bills, and I'm even going to have to short one of them. Uh, it's a little frustrating, to say the least. Okay, the feed tonight has been kind of today funky, just crapping out all left and right, and it's a little infuriating. That's another one done. The old Vic getting an update. Good. It's PNG. Good. Inbox. Inbox. Oh my. Getting a trifle hungry. I need to stop and fix something for lunch. Or dinner. I'm not sure what. Gotta decide. That's what I'm trying to do right now. Trying to decide what to have for dinner. And working hard to convince myself that no, you do not need a pizza. I got one of those local pizza place that does a chicken bacon ranch pizza, and I tried it, and meh, too much bacon. First of all, they don't use bacon; they use bacon bits basically, bacon crisped beyond all reckoning to the point it crumbles into powder, and that's usually it soaks up a little grease and works on a pizza sometimes, but they use too much. They use too much on the pizza, and it's just ugh. First slice or two, first couple of slices is not too bad, but I think part of my evaluation of a pizza is how good is it to eat when it's cold. Because that pizza is not going to stay piping hot unless you've got some sort of plug-in pizza warmer in your kitchen or in your living room that you set there and keep your pizza piping hot. It is not going to stay warm very long the moment it leaves your pizza guy's hands. And and you're going to have a little bit, and you're going to have a little bit left over. You'd better be sure it's going to taste good the next day, because leftovers, don't want to waste them. I ended up throwing the thing away because once it got cold, it was like eating a salt lick. It's too much bacon, not enough chicken, and definitely not enough ranch. Now I'm hungry, and I don't know. Yeah, the connection's been a mess today. It's the reason I've been going on and offline. My internet connection just went for about 10 minutes there, and I had to reboot my computer to get it to reconnect. That's a technical term. Yeah. The real thing, I've come to a conclusion that our society, we're not going to get past this crisis. I used to think that it would take some crisis, some horrible wake up call to bring us around. I thought that when I lived through, I remember September 11th. Some of my audience is so young that they don't even remember it. And that's shocking to realize that I've got people that are watching me, listening to me, read my stuff that are so young they cannot remember September 11th, the September 11th attack. At one point, it was the social paradigm. It shifted so many attitudes. Uh, we were almost up until that point. We were almost as ambiguous about ourselves as a nation uh, as we are today. And we wasted so much time on trivialities. Then less than a year after W got elected, thank God that he did, because this country would have been screwed with Al Gore in the seat when September 11th went down. And there it was, September 11th, 2001, and a bunch of Islamics decided to follow their holy prophet example and murdered almost 3,000 innocent people. And America, by and large, especially the red state people, we woke up and we were not taking any prisoners. And there was a show across the country of patriotism and a decision that we were going to stand up for our country. And for 8 years, under the Bush administration, we went along. We saw Afghanistan. We saw the Al Qaeda uprooted. We saw a horrible tyrant, a monster who filled mass graves with little children. In Iraq, we saw him deposed. We saw Saddam Hussein deposed, captured, and hung by the people he victimized. And it looked for a while that things were actually going to improve. We saw, for the first time in almost half a century, we saw people voting in Iraq. For the first time in human history, women voted in Afghanistan. Those same people who were constantly accusing America of supporting tyrants immediately began sputtering in impotent, quivering fury because we went out and deposed one. But we thrived and we flourished, and then came Obama. America just flushed all the progress that we had made against the threats to our nation and in the Mideast, and all the things that we were changing. It just whoosh. Why? The only reason that man got elected is because black people weren't going to vote for a white man as long as there was a black man available. All they cared about was his skin color. And because everybody else was too afraid of being called racist to vote against Obama. Cowardice again. That same cowardice, that fear that they would be called racist if they said, this guy isn't qualified to be president, I'm picking the other guy. And even though we elected a man of color, quote unquote, to the position of president, the race baiting did not end. America elected a black president. Accusations done. Debate over. No, America is not a pit of racism. But that wasn't enough. And the fact that he was president just meant that they turned around and wound the accusations up even more. The white guilt was redoubled. I didn't vote. He didn't get. Uh, he didn't have difficulties because he was black. He had difficulty. He had a rough presidency because he was incompetent. He was elected because he was black. And he wasn't even African American. He was Kenyan. Half Kenyan and half white. And here's a real surprising note. Turns out that on his mother's side, he's descended from slave owners. They don't care. If they'd put some white out on his face, if they put white man makeup on his face, then he wouldn't have gotten away with a tenth of what he did. But there you have it. The thing that's going to turn this country around, the only thing that's going to turn this country around, is when we stop apologizing for everything. When the conservatives, when the right wing, when we start finding, we got these people online. They're crude, they're crass, they're vulgar, but they're also not. You're being racially insensitive. They'll laugh in your face. Trump, he is not a genteel, elegant man. But if you look him in the face and go, "Oh, you're racist, you're sexist, you're bigoted," he'll laugh in your face. And until we stop taking these simpletons so seriously, when we stop apologizing for hurting their feelings every time they get a sniffle, then we will start seeing this country turn around. They keep it up because they know it works. And they know it works because we're constantly apologizing. Mealy mouth, crawfishing, grubbing in the dirt. Oh, I'm so very terribly sorry. Every time you see every celebrity, every politician, it's always conservative ones. I just need to I just need to stand up for me. I need to apologize for all the the insensitive remarks I made and how I may have offended. And I'm really, really, really sorry. Please don't call me mean names. We're only going to see this country turn around when we're finally, really, sincerely sick. We're not sick of it yet. We're not sick enough of it yet because we're not willing to say, "Yeah, I don't care what you think." As long as men understand, I told you I used to work in a Big Lots store, and me and my immediate supervisor were standing there talking about the aggravating things women would do. And the first thing we both did it. We looked around carefully to make sure that there wasn't anybody female within earshot. And nobody else either, but especially nobody female. And then we spoke with lower tones and spoke truthfully about the aggravating things that women did when they came in and shopped. Until we speak out loud and don't give a rat's ass who we offend, we're not going to see this country turn around. As long as we are afraid to offend, we're going to be afraid to speak. As long as we're afraid to speak, no matter how truthful it is, as long as we're afraid to speak, we are going to see our freedoms erode. We are whipped dogs. And as long as we are afraid, we don't have freedom of speech, we don't have any other freedoms either. It's the interesting thing about the Bill of Rights. You throw out one right, you've effectively lost them all. You just don't know it yet. Until we look these people in the eye, and while they're throwing their temper tantrums and screaming and yelling and throwing these, and not give a rat's ass what they or their advocates in the media and their spokespeople in Hollywood have to say. If we haven't reached a point where we can say, "Oh, you think I'm offensive? Well, here, you know." Until we make it clear to them that we don't give a tinker's damn how offended they are, and we're not going to change our attitudes, we're not going to change our practices for them just because they throw a screaming temper tantrum. Until we do that, we're stuck like this, with everybody apologizing and crawfishing and reverse coursing every time one of them throws a temper tantrum. It's like dealing with a spoiled child. You know how you deal with a child who throws temper tantrums in public? Step one, you ignore them. And then when they finally yelled themselves hoarse and they're out of wind, you pick them up and you swat their behind. No, you're not going to get a cookie just because you want it. That's the advice they gave us in home economics when a kid, kids, one of the things they do when they get mad, they'll hold their breath until they turn purple. And parents, all right, don't do that. You just stand there and let them pass out. Seriously, that was the advice. Let them pass out. It won't kill them. It won't even hurt them. They'll hold their breath until they turn blue and pass out, and then they'll start breathing again. Voila! When they figure out that doesn't work, they'll quit it. The reason you've got spoiled little basement dwelling shits running around in the street in black hoodies and masks is because we let them. They watched the previous days. They watched people throwing tantrums in the street. They watched Occupy Wall Street throwing tantrums in the street. Occupy Wall Street watched all these people throwing these pride parades where they violated every known law of man, including public indecency. And they watch the ones before them. They keep doing it because they see it works. They hold an annual parade in Berkeley where 90% of the people show up naked. Where tons of them show up naked. And the vast majority of the remainder show up in assless chaps and ball gags. And this is supposed to be celebrating their, whatever, their liberation of their unrestrained liberation of their sexuality and all this other crap. All the other crap that comes. It's an excuse for them to parade around naked and do in public and do obscene things in front of everybody and get away with it. If in any sane community, they'd be arrested. They'd be maced, handcuffed, and arrested. They're out there, grown men and women, exposing themselves in front of the entire community, in front of children on the street. And the law stands there and watches them do it. Law stands there with its thumb up its butt, doing nothing. Yet, conservative group, they hold a the Tea Partiers hold a protest against high taxes, and the police are all over them like white on rice. Anti-abortionists hold a rally in front of an abortion clinic, and they're out there yanking people off the ground, twisting their arms behind them, cuffing them and macing them. And no, the police, the police are cowardly. The police are turning into cowardly shits. They're not afraid of the mobs. They got guns and mace. They're not scared of the mobs. They're scared of the politicians sitting back in the city hall. Oh, well, you offended these people. Oh, you were ethnically insensitive and you offended these transsexual people who were out there exposing their dinglings in public because that's their culture in whatever country they come from. And these people, everybody's afraid of what the talking heads on TV will say about them. And it is the disgrace of the nation. That is the disgrace of the nation. We're scared of what the most worthless people in our society, who contribute the absolute least to it in any meaningful way, say about us. Enough so that it affects our policies, our laws, and our personal behavior. Texas isn't going to have any problem with its Confederate statues. You know why? Because the police came out, and the local sheriff, he came out online. He said quite openly, it's again, if they attack or deface any of these statues, it's a violation of at least 2 or 3 different laws. Furthermore, we have a law in this state that says that any person has the right to use lethal force to defend life or property, including public property. In short, he basically said flat out that if he didn't name names, but he basically said if Antifa shows up and starts knocking over statues, they're going to get a bullet in the ass. And what's more, the police aren't going to do a darn thing about it. They're going to stand there and applaud their aim. It's time to stop pandering to crazy people. It's time to stop pandering to crazy people. It's time to stop letting the spoiled brats dictate what we will say or do. There was a day when people going out in the streets, stripping naked and setting things on fire, the police would come down with the riot hoses and the dogs. I'd pay to see that bunch of these Berkeley express yourself, gay pride, public nudity, body painted lunatics dancing down the middle of the street. Born, ding-a-ling swinging in the wind. Born free as the wind blows. Wow, police dog. You're saying the police dog bit you then? Yes, he did. Where exactly? I'd rather not say. Well, it was your own fault for inflating it with saline. Looked like a beach ball. Made it look like a tennis ball. What did you expect? Ah! They do that, actually. It's frightening. I've seen the pictures and thrown up in my mouth a little. One of the things they go out to, like an 80-year-old man standing there, buck naked, daisies painted on his stomach, while somebody used a saline injector to inflate his scrotum. And that's how he was going to walk down the street. Good night. Mama likes a basket on her Easter bunny. Boom. What the heck? It's just right up there. Kill it with fire time, Just, oh, good night. The things I have seen. Not in person, thank God. But you want to know why vigilantism happens? You want to know why it happens? It happens when people finally have no faith that the politicians they elected and the policemen they paid for will protect them and enforce the law. And every day we look up and the police over vast swaths of this country will not enforce the law. The politicians over vast swaths of this country will not enforce the law. They will not obey the law. I've gotten to the point where every time they put up shocking new revelation in the investigation into Hillary Clinton or shocking discovery from a, and I just put one answer, you'll call me back when they're behind bars. The day I see one cop, one person with a badge, demonstrate the testicular fortitude to walk up to these open criminals and slap a pair of handcuffs on them. I don't care if they get right back out of the police, if they get out right out of the police car the moment they're put in. I will be out in the streets screaming hallelujah. Because at least one cop in the world had the gonads to enforce the law of the land that he swore before God and country to uphold. This is crap. We need to bring back some Kent State kind of action here. I've noted this before, and I'll say it again. You notice that the whole hippie peace movement, all their rioting in the streets and all their agitation and troublemaking suddenly sort of died off after Kent State. It was an astonishing revelation to those overgrown man children. Holy crap, you mean they'll shoot back? They were out there throwing bricks, setting things on fire, smashing windows, stealing crap, throwing bricks at the police officers and at the troops. And that's a lethal attack. A brick will kill you if it hits you in the head. And they were out there doing this crap. And finally, their commanding officer said, lock, load, and fire. Because it was either that or be overrun by a bunch of stinky, screaming, deranged hippies and be torn apart by a mob. If they had just roped off, if they had just, I always have this fantasy that that how different things would be if Woodstock had been rounded up. If the forces they had waited until they were all too stoned out of their minds to see straight. Rounded them all up, loaded them in a truck, dumped them on an island someplace. Here you go. Here's your utopia. The past 50 years of American history would have been 1,000 times brighter because we wouldn't have had Clinton and Hillary's generation sliming their way through the government and the media and the educational system. And maybe after 10, 20 years, when the last of the fires have burned out and the last hippie on the island has eaten the last feminist, they could have gone back, picked up the survivors, said, now do you want to try being an actual citizen of our civilization? It's the same story this time as it was last time. The hippie movement was pushed off by the socialists. It was pushed off by the Communist Party. It was backed and it was aggravated and agitated by operatives from the Soviet Union. They tracked it. They backtracked it. McCarthy was, McCarthy. They make a big fuss about McCarthy. Oh, he persecuted those poor actors and actresses and performers. He's level all sorts of accusations. No, he didn't. That was he wasn't even separate branch, but he was right. The accusations he laid about bunches of people in government and in the media and in Hollywood being sympathizers, collaborators, and operatives with the Soviet Union was correct. It came out. The documentation came out about 10, 15 years ago. It came unclassified. Surprise! McCarthy was right. But because he wasn't telegenic, nobody wanted to listen to him. They could have probably put an end. They could have stopped Woodstock right before it began just by throwing soap at people. Now, this is one thing that you don't know about the hippie generation of the 1960s. Hippies stank. I mean, they were foul. My parents lived through it. They say you can't imagine how badly they smelled because they believed that bathing was a tool of was a tool of the man and was used to and they wanted to get in touch with nature. That and the fact that they were bombed out on drugs and had no personal self maintenance anyway. They stunk. They reeked. You had people that had been sent off to college on a trust fund that smelled like they had been living in a back alley dumpster for the past 4 years. I gotta say this much. Whenever I finish up something for Daniel Meyer, doing his old Vic comics and such, he always sends an email back, awesome, love it, thanks, great. And it's just that little bit, boosts my morale a little bit. Cheers me up. Puts me in a better mood, at least for a little bit. That's interesting. One of the things that has been holding me up on writing new Nip and Tuck strips, parodying the left. I mean, the craziest things I've come up with. I couldn't. Like I said before, I couldn't make. Gilly Gopher was the token leftist in the comic strip, and the most bat poo insane things I could come up with. I'd be outstripped by the day's newspaper. That's the thing about political commentary. You've seen the editorial cartoons. They don't really make people laugh, do they? Make them angry. But you're never going to see anybody opening up the editorial page and laughing at the comics there. I noticed this years ago when I was a kid, but I can't avoid it. I can't. these issues that I comment on, if I don't say something, I bust. And and uh, and I love how I say, why didn't you stop talking about this stuff? It's interesting. Uh, it's always these people with left leanings that complain the most about my commentary. They love the silence. So long as nobody makes fun of their insanities, they can keep at them uninterrupted, blissful in their ignorance and conviction that everybody approves of all they do. What do you do with that? You don't stay silent. The purpose of humor isn't just to amuse. It educates, it entertains, but it also educates, enlightens, goads people to action. Sometimes it's the only shield you have to defend yourself with and the only weapon you can use to fight back. Okay, it is, let's see, it has been, I have no idea how long it's been because I keep losing the connection and having to reconnect. But it is 4 in the afternoon, and I kind of need to, stop, eat, and do a few other things. So I guess I call it a night, or a day, or an afternoon, or whatever. Thank you for tuning in, and thank you for anybody who's listening here. Again, I apologize for my uh, uh, verbal slips. Uh, Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching and supporting and all the things you do. I will catch you all. I may do a show over the weekend. I may just catch you on Monday. But until then, y'all be safe and say a prayer for me, because Lord knows I need all the help I can get.